Welcome. Today we're doing something a bit different, a unique deep dive. We basically took 12 passages completely at random.
Well, seemingly random.
Seemingly random, yes.
Yeah.
From biblical texts, extra biblical ones like Enoch, using some, less common translations too.
Yeah.
Young's literal, Thompson's Septuagint.
Right.
And the mission was, okay, are these just disconnected bits, or is there actually like a hidden structure holding them together?
And what's really fascinating, what jumped out almost immediately, is that they're not random at all when you look at the content.
Okay.
They actually map out this continuous cycle, a functional system of governance described in these texts. It follows four clear phases.
4 phases, what are they?
You start with divine order, then comes human-led disorder, which leads inevitably to consequent judgment, and finally, you get a covenantal reordering.
Divine order as the starting point.
That's the baseline, yeah. The
Mhm.
perfect structure, the law laid out, everything that follows is measured against that initial state.
Okay, so the cycle really kicks off with phase 2 then, the human-led disorder. It starts when that perfect structure gets breached.
Exactly. And the sources are, well, pretty clear that this disorder, this breach, it doesn't start from the outside. It's internal.
An inside job, so to speak.
You could say that. It's the failure of internal governance, the rot within the system itself. We see it spelled out starkly in 1 Samuel.
Eli's sons.
Eli's sons, yeah. Described literally as sons of worthlessness. And crucially, the text says their corruption comes from not knowing the Lord operationally.
Operationally. So
Yeah.
not just belief, but practice.
Precisely. It wasn't just, bad personal choices. It was a failure in their actual job, their duty to manage that divine structure. The whole internal system gets compromised right there.
And that failure, it seems like it just poisons everything that comes after, any attempt to fix things.
It does. The extra biblical sources really echo this. Like in Enoch, there's this story of building a high tower, an attempt at restoration, right? But the offering they make, the very first one meant to make it sacred, it's described as polluted and not pure.
So the leadership failure taints the recovery effort from the start.
Absolutely.
Right.
If that internal moral compass is broken, the text suggests any rebuilding is basically doomed from the get-go.
Okay, so internal order collapses. What happens next? You mentioned phase 3, judgment. How does, a local leadership failure escalate to, geopolitical collapse? That seems like a massive jump.
It does seem like a jump, and that's a key point. The sources argue it's not just random history unfolding, it's purposeful. It's this consequent judgment phase.
Purposeful how?
Think about the scale.
Yeah.
Daniel talks about huge shifts, the king of the south overthrown by the king of the north, empires clashing.
Right, standard history, wars, and conquests.
But look at the why. 2 Kings gives us that theological key, Hezekiah's prayer, he asks God to intervene so that, and this is the crucial part, all kingdoms of the earth may know that thou alone art the Lord.
Ah, okay, so the chaos, the wars, they're framed as serving this larger purpose, demonstrating ultimate sovereignty.
That's how these texts frame it, yes. The geopolitical upheaval isn't random. It's a mechanism for universal recognition of that one governing principle.
Which brings us to the restoration part. Phase 4, reordering. And you said this hinges on the stranger. That sounds surprising.
It is surprising, and it's central. The whole architecture of the new order seems to be built around how the community treats the stranger, the resident alien.
Where does that idea come from?
It's grounded deep in their own history, their memory. Exodus explicitly says, don't oppress the stranger, because you were strangers in Egypt.
So empathy born from shared experience. Protect the vulnerable.
Exactly, but then it goes further. It's not just about protection. There's this radical shift towards essential participation.
How so?
Look at 1 Chronicles. King David doesn't just shelter the strangers in the land. He actively gathers them and appoints them as stone hewers for the temple, the house of God.
Wow. So they go from being outsiders needing protection to literally being foundational builders.
Foundational builders, essential parts of the renewed structure. They're not just guests, they're integral. And Isaiah takes it even further, promising an everlasting covenant where the stranger is fully integrated. The whole reordered society is defined by including the outsider.
Okay, this whole cycle, corruption, judgment, restoration through inclusion, it feels like there must be an underlying rule, a principle driving it.
There is. Proverbs puts it very simply, in the ways of righteousness there is life, but the ways of the resentful are to death.
Righteousness versus resentment.
That's the operational principle, yeah.
Right.
Resentment, injustice, internal corruption leads to breakdown, death, entropy. But righteousness, fairness, especially towards the vulnerable stranger that leads to life. stability, the covenantal reordering. It's the engine of the whole system described here.
So, stepping back, we started with what looked like 12 random pieces. And we ended up tracing this incredibly cohesive narrative. Order corrupted from within, leading to massive external judgment, and then a surprising restoration built on radically, including the outsider, all governed by this principle of righteousness.
Exactly. And that really leads to the final thought, for you listening. If just 12 passages picked almost randomly across different texts and translations show this much internal coherence, this dynamic structural logic about how governance and restoration work,
Yeah.
well, what does that suggest about the text you read every day? About the connections maybe lying just beneath the surface, waiting to be seen, even the most familiar verses? What other non-random patterns are woven through it all?